going to open the Dixon Unified School District Governing Board, and we are going to adjourn for closed session. Is there any comment on closed session? Seeing none, we will adjourn for closed session. No comments or announcements from closed session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Everyone except for Melissa is present this evening. Notice to the public, this is your opportunity to speak if you would like to speak on an item that is not on. No, I'm sorry. I'm just going to announce that there's public comment. If you would like to speak on public comment, please just raise your hand at the appropriate time, and you. Of guests and presentations. Is there any?
None this evening, no.
All right. Correspondence. Is there any correspondence this evening?
None this evening, no.
All right. And consent agenda. I will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. We're going to do a roll call vote. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. Motion passes. Okay, no items were pulled from the consent agenda. So we'll move on to stakeholder communications. Lucas, go ahead.
All right. Hello, everybody. We have a couple of updates for you today. First, the GHS. Little mix up there. Senior parent meetings, along with many other informational meetings at the high school, have begun as we move forward towards graduation and the end of the school year. DHS leadership has been working hard on ways to transition as smoothly as possible for each and every student. Lastly, on behalf of our student body, I would like to thank our teachers for working hard on making this transition into a hybrid model as safe and positive as you can. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lucas. Kathy, I'll recognize you next. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't see Tad's hand. Tad, are you here, the Citizens Oversight Committee? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to Kathy. Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you very much. That's okay. The Dixon Teacher Association is pleased to have reached an agreement with the Dixon School Board and the district. Our bargaining members are working hard to prepare our classrooms and the lessons we will be offering our students when they return. We look forward to meeting our students in person as we learn to navigate our safe, open school sites. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Is there any other employee association reports this evening? All right, seeing none. We'll move on to parent association reports. Are there any parent association reports this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. If you would like to speak about an issue that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda, you can go ahead and raise your hand at this time. Okay, seeing none, we're moving on to information, discussion, and action. Ryan.
Thank you very much.
I'll actually read this is the update on the reopening of the school in the 2020-2021 school year.
Thanks, Scotland. Going to try to do a very brief presentation this evening on our status with regards to reopening. We have been quite busy over these last several days as we have been able to get this whole show started. It's really exciting that we welcomed students back today. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. I did not mean to share that. That's the right place. We welcomed about 30 students into school today. They were our students who are in the Intensive Learning Center program, so students with disabilities. Actually, it was closer to 50 kids when I think about the preschool program. So 4 sites were open today. Our preschool program, which is a blend of students with disabilities, and they're typically developing peers. We had approximately 20 students at Tremont today. Again, students from the ILCs. We had 6 students at Cia Jacobs, and we had about 7 students at Dixon High School today. So it was really very exciting to have those students on campus. They were happy. They were smiling. The staff who work with them were in the same state. It was really, really enjoyable to see them there. And you did see a little bit of nerves as students were coming in, but those quickly evaporated as they got to spend the time in their classrooms with their teachers, and to see each other was a great benefit as well. So really thank everybody who made today happen. And there's a whole lot more to come, as you can see now that I finally got my screen up. And this information is not new. It has not changed. It's been out now for about at least 4 or 5 days. And it does show the stages of our return. So you see our preschool and ILCs today. On Monday, we welcome our TKK and first grade students, our 6th grade students, and our 9th and 12th grade students at Dixon High and the alternative ed program. And I just point out that on Monday, it's the students in group A who will be attending in the middle and high school levels. The elementary level, as we'll point out, is AM PM. It continues in that model. In stage 3 on the 25th, we add 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades. And stage 4 on March 29th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 10th, and 11th. So we're really pleased that we're able to get all of our grade levels back on March 29th. We meet the qualifications requirements for the in-person incentive grant. So that's going to mean that the district will receive about $955,000 to assist in the reopening process. So really applaud everyone who has stepped up and made this possible. Thought it would be good to share with you the percentage of students by school site who, to the best of our knowledge, are going to stay in distance learning and or return in person. So we say to the best of our knowledge because families were still continuing to report their decisions this afternoon. We did ask for that information on Monday. Families have not told us, especially if they're choosing to remain in distance learning. It's really important that we get that information tomorrow. We do want to be ready for the return of students. So what you can see is overall, 36.5% of our students are going to stay in distance learning, and 63.5% are going to return in person. But when you look at it by school site, the numbers are, there's some really significant differences that we see. With elementaries, you've got Anderson at 68.4 coming back. At Gretchen Higgins, 71.5% coming back. And at Tremont, 75% of families are reporting that their children will return in person. So those are really high numbers. We're seeing that in a lot of districts, even with their elementaries, that students are coming back only at about a 50% level. You can see at Main Prairie Community Day School, 75% of students have reported that they are going to return in person. At John Knight Middle School, the number, we see something of a significant drop there at 61.75%. And at Dixon High, it's all the way down at 54%. So we're curious about those numbers and how they compare to neighboring districts, other districts in the region, and really statewide. We will explore why those secondary numbers are that much lower. We'll report back on that as well. We do I want to remind families who are participating in the meeting tonight that they do have a one-time chance to change their mind after school starts for them. And certainly, we know there's a lot of reasons why families are choosing distance learning. For some, it's the health and safety concerns. For others, the logistics of different schedules and physically getting children to and from school. For some, they've come to see distance learning as a good program for their children at this point in time. But we want to continue to encourage families to make the choice that is right for them. And if we see comfort levels and success with in-person in particular, we'd be very happy to have families make that choice to come back in person with us. We'll welcome anyone back and also recognize the value of the choice you have as families to stay in distance. So very quickly, these schedules have been widely distributed at this point in time. The preschool program, as I said, started today. I had the pleasure of being there between 1 and 1:30 and watching some circle time, singing the hello song to some sweet little kids. They are running a 2-hour and 45-minute program 4 days a week, which has been their typical program. So really, there's not very much different in the preschool program, which is terrific. In TK and Kinder, so TK is only at Anderson, but for Kinder in all of the levels, the minutes requirement, instructional minutes requirement for TK in kindergarten is lower in regular days, and also here under SB 98 and the requirements for instructional minutes now. So we do have our TK and Kinder students coming in person for 2 hours a day. And then there's this additional time from 10:15 to 10:45 or from 2 to 2:30, where small groups of students, even be individual students, will remain for intervention or assessments. So that additional time is there to provide some real direct support to our Kinder students and their families. First through fifth grade, you can see the AM/PM sessions, 8:15 to 11:15 and 12 to 3. Wednesday for everybody remains the asynchronous day. And again, we have been working on the 3-hour block now, and now some students who choose to will be able to complete that block in person. At the middle school, we have what looks like a very traditional schedule. And this actually is only about 32 minutes shorter than the in-person schedule that John Knight, CAJ have followed in the past. So this features 45-minute class periods. There is a break here in the morning between 10:07 and 10:22. That's intended to allow for cleaning between that second period and third period. It also provides students with a chance to get a snack and get a little food in their belly. Unlike a lot of places, we actually are holding lunch periods for students at the secondary level. We're confident in our ability to both provide students with the meals, but also maintain the social distancing and other precautions that are necessary in these times. As we considered the idea of lunch, one of the pieces that we came to consensus on was the social benefit of allowing kids a lunch period is a positive for them. And again, with the lower number of students on campus, we're going to be able to manage this effectively. We did maintain in our secondary schedule this what's called a family consultation time, where teachers are required to be making direct contact with families, telephone calls or Zoom, not just emails, to keep families informed about how their kids are doing in school. The Dixon High schedule is very similar to the John Knight schedule. A little bit of a difference is, well, a big difference is we have 0 period. And so some students finish after the 5th period and will be leaving at that time. So that means some of them will not be around for the lunch period. And then it's about 750 students total who attend in the 6th period. So the day we kind of see a gradual decrease in the number of students on campus as the day goes on. And finally, the Maine Prairie schedule is similar to what they've currently been doing, just offering the in-person opportunity for those students who wish to attend. And their day begins at 8:30 and ends at 1:15. That's about 35 or 40 minutes shorter than their regular in-person schedule. So we've got a lot of continuity, especially one of the goals we had in developing and adopting our schedules was that we would not have dramatic differences for families, students and families to have to adjust to. So we're really pleased that we were able to continue in the basic models that we had, perhaps a little bit of movement on times. A couple things I want to draw attention to, and I'm going to scroll back up into the elementary world. We're able to bring our elementary age students into campus 4 days a week for 3 hours a day. And there's not very many districts who are achieving this right now. So as we work with our labor partners through this, one of the things that was important was to get our kids on campus as frequently as we possibly could. And so we're very, very pleased that for our elementary families, our elementary students, those kids get to come to school 4 days a week. And we also know that we've got so many staff members who are also really pleased that they're going to get to see their students 4 days a week. At the secondary level, some schools, some districts are starting with only limiting the percentage of students who could be on campus to 25% per day. So we go with the A-B model, which means that half of our kids have the opportunity to return on-campus learning if they should so choose. So again, one of the things we really like about our schedules is that students will report in person twice a week, if that is their choice, and get to see, again, their peers and their teachers in that face-to-face model. So we really appreciate the work that we were able to do with DTA in particular around the schedules and place such a good emphasis on being able to have our kids on campus as often as possible. There's a lot of dialogue previously related to concurrent teaching model, known by many as Zooms or Rooms. And that is the model that in the end our schedules include. There's been a lot of questions and concerns voiced about the ability for this to be a successful model. We are happy to say that our Ed Services Department was able to very quickly organize some professional development for our teachers yesterday, today, and tomorrow through partners that we worked with back in August named EdTech. And our teachers have been making use of the opportunities for them to learn. I said in the weekly update last week, I think, we know we're going to have bugs. We know things will be challenging. At times, there will be surprises. There's no doubt. Everybody is finding that as they begin this reopening process. There's also going to be a whole lot of good folks. Our staff has worked very hard up to this point in time. They're ready for this next stage to begin seeing their students as well. There are technical elements of the work they're going to be doing that are new to them and are going to be new to our students as well as they return to campuses. And I just call for patience and flexibility, presuming that everybody is doing their best work and trying to make this successful for our students. So that said, I would entertain any questions that the board may have. Otherwise, I will wait for the public comment.
All right, is there any more questions? Jewel, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the senior.
I'm having a hard time hearing, so just take the mask down.
I have a question about the senior high school for students that have a zero period.
Mhm.
You mentioned that they wouldn't be around for the lunch. Do they have to leave? What
So,
happens if
yeah,
they want to have lunch?
Yeah, the question is, and I've got a louder voice, so restating, what if you have seniors or others who do not have class during the lunchtime? Would they be able to stay and have lunch? We have the obligation to feed every child, every student who wants to eat. And so, yes, they can stay there. We are concerned about the distancing and such, right? And how many students might like to do that. You know, most of them are seniors. Past experience would say that those students left campus immediately. So we don't really think a lot of them would pursue this. And obviously the site administration will, will be monitoring all elements of lunch, including if students who are free to go are there and not necessarily being the best citizens in terms of protocols and such. So we'd encourage, I think, some of those students to talk with the administrative team and make sure, hey, I'm going to stay and eat. It's important to me. There's also grab and go meals for students, so they can still get a meal but leave immediately, right?
And that's for everyone. There's no more free meals.
No,
for
that
everyone.
everybody is it's an option for everybody to pick up a meal and eat. There's no payment required. There's no form required. This is something good that our government has done in terms of making food available to all students. And even the pickup meals that currently happen at Anderson, Gretchen Higgins, Tremont, and the C.A. Jacobs campus. And I believe we might have to be obligated to do this now at Dixon High School. And John Knight as well, is there still will be the outdoor pickup meal option for families who may not be attending in person, but would still like to get a meal.
All right, Lucas, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just had a comment. So a good chunk of the kids haven't been on campus yet for the high school. So Dixon High ASB is filming an orientation video for students who are unfamiliar for the campus. So we're going to be sending that out. Just want to let everybody know about that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Super, Lucas.
Okay.
Yeah, sites have been recording their own videos in addition to mailing home things like maps for student entry and such. So there have been some really pretty enjoyable video depictions of where to go, how to get to your classroom, things like that. So if anyone is out there from a school site, parents from a school site, and would like to make sure that they get to know that those details, and you haven't seen those yet, I'd encourage you tomorrow to look on your school's Facebook page or web page. If you're not seeing things, they also might be available through Class Dojo or other means, but contact the school office and say, hey, I missed this far. Can I get this opportunity to see things?
Other board questions or comments on this item? All right, I'm going to open for public comment. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I want to give a huge thank you. I know this process has been very tedious and emotional and difficult, and I've been there for the whole ride. And I can't tell you how relieved I was Sunday seeing the elementary schedule, knowing that our little kids get to go back 4 days a week. I cried tears of joy right alongside with my daughter. Just very, very happy for all the kids. And I have the utmost confidence in our teachers that they will make this work. I just truly believe that they've adapted to so much and that they'll adapt to this. And as parents, this, of all the times that we wish we could help in the classroom, we can't. It's the time that, we feel like they probably need an extra set of hands the most, and we can't be there. But I hope that we can be supportive of however we can outside the classroom to make sure this works well. I also want to thank everyone for all the communication. I'm a Tremont parent, and the information we've received has just been incredible. I feel really confident knowing what to do on Monday, knowing how to prepare my child to get back to school. And one more note, I work with high school and middle school students in Sacramento, and a lot of my high school students that I work with aren't going back to campus either. So it was interesting seeing the results from Dixon High and kind of seeing that maybe across the board with high schoolers, it kind of lines up. So that was just a little interesting tidbit. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Stephanie, you're next. Stephanie, do you, there you go. All right.
This is Travis. Sorry about that. So we have Ella, our daughter, who's a junior at the high school. You know, she attends 0 through 5, and we're wanting to know when, you know, we don't want her to stay for lunch. So we're not sure when the lunch period is going to be. Do you know when that information will be provided to us for a decision? Because we want her to go back to school, but we don't want her to go 0 through 4, stay for lunch, then have to do 5, and then be done for the end of the day. So that's my question.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I believe that the Dixon High communications that went out did include what was the, so there's a lunch and a B lunch, or a lunch 1 and lunch 2. I forget the exact way it's characterized. But double check the information that has gone out. And if you don't see it in there, please shoot an email over to Stephanie Marquez. She can make sure that you get the information. We've never had a double lunch at Dixon High School. And so this is a new thing. And if I'm not going to speak to exactly how it is organized. It might be entirely geographic. It might be a little bit of blend, but oftentimes double lunches are just this half of campus goes in the first lunch and the other half of campus goes in the second lunch. But they'll be able to tell you, Travis, at the high school, if you don't have that information handy yet. Well, obviously you don't,
Yeah.
so they can point you in the right direction.
And Travis, I just got a message from the principal. If you call her directly, I think there's been some communication in advance of this, but if you would call her directly, she'll help you get that information.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I asked Ella and she hadn't received any email, so that's why we're curious if which lunch she was in.
Okay, great, thank you. And Brenda, you're next.
Good evening. I'm just curious what the district's plan is to provide substitute teachers for the teachers who are taking leaves. How will those classrooms be filled?
Okay, and we're gonna see if there's any more public comment, then I'll close public comment and we'll answer questions. Thanks, Brenda. Is there any additional public comment? Otherwise, I'm gonna close public comment on this item and we'll answer Brenda's question.
Yes, so it's really not any kind of different process than anytime we have a teacher on leave in the district. Obviously, it's a more complicated time in terms of COVID, whether full distance learning or a hybrid model. So our HR department and our principals have been working to address those vacancies and make sure that we have the best people possible. We are continuing to recruit substitutes. And if anyone is out there with a college degree and would like to support our students and the district by becoming a substitute, go to edjoin.org and you will see a standing application for substitute teachers in the school district. Right now, the test, it's called the CBEST, is a test that's usually required for substitute credential, and that's been waived under the current circumstances. So we'd encourage anybody to look into that. And in the meantime, HR and our principals are addressing filling any vacancies.
Great, thank you. This item does not require any action. Is there any additional board comment before I move on? Go ahead, DJ.
I was going to agree with what Michelle said about a low percentage of high school students wanting to return. I experienced that myself.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to A2. This is approval of change order number 9 for the John Knight Middle School project.
Thank you very much. So actually I have 2 items tonight of change orders. And the John, this A particular change order is related to the first fully bid project, and that's the comprehensive modernization of the campus. The next item is more narrow one, and I'll try to describe that accurately for you. So we have had a significant number of change orders through this process, and you can see that this overall is change order number 9. And what I'd like to do is my standard practice, if possible, of highlighting the change order line items that are $10,000 or higher. With this particular change order, it was largely unforeseen elements in construction. Well, 2 main conditions: unforeseen conditions and district directed, right? So I'll go through these quickly. So on the northwest part of campus, over there between the small gym and the music room, we replaced some fencing and added some concrete there to secure the campus, and actually moved the fencing away from the music building. The old fencing would allow a student to get on top of the fence and get on the roof. So that was $25,686. We have found the need to replace or retrofit lighting throughout the campus for $192,178. We were attempting to just use the existing lighting equipment throughout the classrooms. And as we went about the process of placing new bulbs in and potentially replacing a small number of ballasts, what we found was the existing equipment replacement parts were not available. And actually the bulbs that were used in these fixtures are no longer available. So we were kind of forced into upgrading the lighting across the campus because we could not continue to use the existing equipment there. So we'll now have new lighting everywhere in the campus after trying to avoid that level of expense. It's change order number 231. We needed to install some concrete curbs and irrigation lines, so a little bit more landscaping that we did. That was $10,437. We really kind of went light on landscaping overall in the initial plan. So we have weed barrier and bark in all the dirt areas around the campus. It looks very nice. That was $45,912. I would point out on change order number 233, that's in the amount of $48,642. We were going to place grass in there, and that project has now been canceled. We're just going to fill it with some decomposed granite. On number 237, for $14,444, we had to patch some wall and other damage in the gymnasium. In building A, floor access hatches, we do have a subfloor in that building, and there was a need with some unforeseen conditions to repair some access points. Building B, sanitary sewer replacement was $10,108. What we found was some damaged pipe that was restricting some drainage. 243 for $42,419. We needed to add some additional fire alarm devices, smoke detectors, and fire alarms. In number 260, gas line testing and replacement at building A. While pressure tested, we did not have adequate pressure for the gas to flow into the teaching stations. And 274, we have added quite a bit of irrigation across the campus, and determined that we needed a booster pump to make sure that all those drip lines and other sprinklers had enough pressure to actually water the plants. So with this subtraction of that $48,000 item, this change order moves from $566,161 to, from $614,804 down to $566,161. So I'll answer any questions that the board has. Otherwise, I will ask for your approval tonight.
All right, are there board questions on this item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to open for public comment. Is there public comment on item number A2? All right, seeing none, I'll again ask for, is there any other board comment, any board questions? All right, then I'll entertain a motion on this item. There's a motion, is there a second? All right, I'm gonna do roll call vote. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. This next item, change order number 1. So this is a separate project under the bid process that we used. This project is limited to the window replacement across the John Knight campus and the modernization of the kitchen area, in particular in the multipurpose room. We have this change order is a grand total of $122,931.51. So most of this were items that were discovered as the demolition happened in there and are related to electrical and plumbing materials situations. So number 1 for $24,470 is in fact unforeseen, some electrical switch gear that needed to be replaced. Number 2 is actually a credit in the amount of $171,026. We had a large contingency anticipating that the Division of State Architect would be requiring more of our planning and verification of engineering reports and such. So we had placed a large amount in contingency. That process with DSA ended up being much simpler and much less expensive than we anticipated. So we credit back $171,026, which is a rare thing with change orders. Yes, number 7 in multipurpose room 114, that's the former home economics room. We had to obtain new casework to replace some that was not ADA compliant. So that was $20,037. In the kitchen area, in number 8, we had to modify some of the structural framing that was in place there. And number 15 and 16 related to the windows, where we had water sill tables that needed to be replaced. And 18 for $13,963. We had to add some curbing at the wall in the multipurpose room, curbing in the kitchen area to make sure that water flow and drainage was up to code. So again, I'll answer any questions that the board has.
All right, are there board questions on change order number 1?
Cost is 120,000 even with the credit.
Yes. Okay. So it would have been, 390,
Yeah.
whatever, without the credit.
Okay.
Other board questions, comments? All right, I'm going to open for public comment on item number A3. All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on this change order. There's a motion, is there a second? There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd? Joel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well, motion passes. All right, we are moving on to item B1, the 2020-2021, the second interim budget report.
Good evening, President O'Halloran, members of the board, Superintendent Dolan. This evening, I am presenting the second interim budget report. I will share my screen. There we go. Do you all see one slide that says 2021 second interim budget?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, before I begin, I want to take a moment to thank the district staff and Park Corp in their assistance with the development of this budget. This budget is the result of months of work together to be able to do good forecasting and determine or have an idea of where our district is going. As with every budget report, I always show our annual budget cycle. We are at our second interim financial report, and it's March. This evening, we'll review the legal requirements related to the budget. Core messages will provide a second interim budget overview, discuss multi-year projections, and then talk about our next steps. Legal requirements. The second interim reflects the district's financial position as of January 31st. The board must certify whether the district is able to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of this fiscal year and the 2 subsequent fiscal years. And the Solano County Office of Education reviews our budget. Let's talk about core messages. Certification. We recommend that we certify this second interim budget as qualified. This means that we believe that we will meet our financial obligations this year and next year, and the following year in 22-23 will meet our obligations through budget stabilization adjustments. Key assumptions. The 2021 budget and multi-year projections are based on the 2021-22 governor's budget proposal as of January. You'll note that the 2 in 22 is underlined. That's indicating that there is a slight difference between the board packet and this packet. There was just a typo. The multi-year projections and budget are also based upon the board-approved budget stabilization plan. Another assumption is related to our cost of living adjustment. At our first interim, based upon the information we had at the time, we projected that we would not receive a cost of living adjustment, a COLA, in the coming years. However, with the governor's January budget proposal, we are projecting that we will receive a 3.84% COLA in 21-22, 1.28% in 22-23, and 1.61% in 23-24. Our assumption is also that we will include 25% of our certificate of participation payments that are paid via the general fund. We wanted to make sure that we take a moment to talk about the COVID relief funding that we have already received and that we project to receive, and identify what is and what is not included in this second interim budget. The information in green is what we are calling phase 1 of our COVID relief funding. This funding is included in the budget, and it's money that has already been allocated and we plan to receive this year, and that's about 2.9 million. The information in red, which we're calling our phase 2 funding, is not included in the budget. That's about 4.6 million. The reason it's not included in the budget is because we are not certain about exactly when we are going to receive that money or how much we'll receive when we receive it. So we did not include that in the budget. You'll also note that the new funding that was just approved very recently is also not included in the budget. That's what we're calling our ESSER 3 funding. Right now, projections indicate it might be about $5.4 million, but we don't know when we're getting that money, and so we did not include that in this particular budget report. Enrollment, just like at first interim, we still project a decline in enrollment based upon the information that we had at first interim. It's still holding true for our second interim. Pension costs are still rising. Through the January budget, we do see a slight decrease in our CalSTRS pension costs, but it's not so much that it would have a significant effect on our budget based upon what we're seeing. Finally, we also included budget stabilization adjustments in this particular budget. As a reminder, the budget stabilization adjustments are projected reductions to expenses that are necessary to meet our minimum financial obligations. The specific expenses for the reductions will be identified as the district implements the budget stabilization plan. So let's have a brief overview of our second interim budget. Details are in the board packet if you want to go really deep into the budget. This is just an overview. First, let's look at our revenues. We are projecting for our unrestricted revenues that they will be about 30 million, about 8.5 million for restricted, for a combined revenues of about 38.6 million. This is about 209,000 more than what we saw at our first interim. That's because we're seeing a slight increase to our local control funding, our LCFF funding, and also a slight increase to our federal funding. Next, let's talk about our expenses, and these are quite different from our first interim. Our salaries and benefits combined, we're projecting will be about 28.6 million. That's about a $620,000 decrease from our first interim. That's because of decreased sub costs and decreased costs for not filling certain vacancies. It's important to note that these changes are one-time expense reductions because we did not use as many subs this year, and there's certain vacancies that we didn't fill this year that we do plan to fill next year. So we'll want to keep an eye on our budget in the future. Our operating expenses are also down about $380,000. This is mainly due to decreased transportation costs. We're not busing anyone anywhere, and also decrease in our utility costs. I want to make note that we're seeing about a $90,000 decrease in water due to the well over at Dixon. Finally, our expenditures are down almost $1 million compared to first interim, and we're projecting that our expenditures combined will be about 38.3 million. So our surplus or deficit, we're projecting that our surplus will be about 376,000. We still anticipate that we will contribute to the cafeteria fund. And instead of having a decrease to our fund balance, we're projecting that we'll have an $83 increase to our fund balance. So how does this affect what I call our bottom line? We want to make sure that we're paying attention to our REU, our Reserve for Economic Uncertainties. We project that our REU will be 7%. A district our size, we are required to have a minimum of 3%. Based upon revenue, based upon expenses, we're projecting that obviously our REU will be higher, and that's about a 2% increase from our first interim report. I also want to make note that the reason that we're seeing an improvement from our first interim is we are working very hard to make sure that our expenses match our revenue, and that our revenue, it's tied to enrollment. So as our enrollment goes down, our revenue goes down, therefore our expenses also need to go down. And it appears that we're on the right track with that, at least for this year. Let's talk about the out years, the multi-year projections. First and foremost, looking at our revenues. Just like with the first interim report, we do see a drop in our revenue in 22-23. This drop is due to our declining enrollment. As a reminder, this year and next year, we have a little bit of a reprieve because of the hold harmless clause in some of the bills that have passed. Hold harmless clause means that our revenue will not be affected for this year and next year by our decline in enrollment. However, we will have a drop in our revenue in 22-23. Our expenses, just like we see in our own personal lives, things are going to get more expensive as years and days go on. So we do see an increase in our expenses. So we have a decline in our enrollment, a decline in our revenue and an increase in our expenses, which causes us to still need to pay attention to our budget, because in 22-23, we still project that we need to decrease our expenses by 1.2 million. By the following year in 23-24, we need to decrease our expenses by 4.3 million. I want to make note that these budget stabilization adjustments are dramatically different from our first interim because of changes in the COLA, and then also us ensuring that we're matching our expenses with our revenue, with our enrollment. At first interim in 22-23, we were looking at a $6 million budget stabilization adjustment needed. And in 23-24, we were looking at an $8 million budget stabilization adjustment needed. So it's important to note and kind of pat ourselves on the back that we are making the expense reductions, but we still need to make sure that we're matching our expenses and our revenue, as I've said multiple times in this particular presentation. So looking at our REU, our Reserve for Economic Uncertainties, this year, we absolutely meet our minimum obligations. Next year, we project that we will still meet our minimum obligations. However, the following years, with those budget stabilization adjustments, we'll just meet our minimum obligations. So in summary, the increased COLA, the cost of living adjustment, provides more revenue for us, but it will not address all of our increasing costs. The one-time money that we'll get for COVID-related needs will address those needs. However, it's also to note that this is one-time money, and we'll need to make sure that we use that money to the best of its ability and recognize that we cannot use it for ongoing expenses. And overall, we need to remain focused on eliminating our structural deficit, meaning that, again, and I'll say it one last time, making sure that we're matching our expenses with our revenue as we're in a declining enrollment state. So what are our next steps? In May, the governor will provide his May budget revision, often called the May Revise, which will be any adjustments to the projected budget for next year. From March, even beginning right now through May, we'll continue to have discussions on our budget stabilization plan. And then in June, we'll be back together to discuss and ask for your adoption of next year's budget. What question? Oh, last and but not least, we finished our budget cycle for this time point, our second interim, and you'll note again in your packet, our arrow is now pointing to our preliminary enrollment report. What that is it's when we certify our average daily attendance, meaning how many students actually attend class every day. That's an important point because it is a factor in our ongoing revenue. So at this time, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, are there board questions? Any board questions on this item? No? Okay, I'm gonna, oh,
comment that I always feel, when Monique shows us, it's so well laid out, I just feel a calm. And I want to thank you, Monique, for your work.
great, yes, thank you from all of us, Monique, you do a great job. Is there any public comment on this item? All right, and you need action from us this evening, correct, to approve this item? All right. I will entertain a motion to approve item number B1. There's a motion, is there a second? All right, there's a motion and a second. DJ? Lloyd? Jewel? Lucas? And I as well. Motion passes. And we are moving on to item number B2, Budget Stabilization Plan Status Update.
Yes, thank you. I will also share my screen on this particular item. There we go. Let's see if I can full screen mode, just to make this a little bit bigger for you. This evening, I am presenting a status update on our progress on the budget stabilization plan that was approved by you in November. Based upon our estimates as of today, we are estimating that through the general fund, we are projecting a savings of about $890,000. And from the cafeteria fund, about $7,000. And I'll review how we have come to these estimates. In December, I did provide this particular update where it shows that through conversations with management and executive staff and site personnel, we identified reductions of about $385,000. Those reductions did not include any reductions to personnel. It was just pulling out some dollars that we identified did not need to be in the budget. Through subsequent conversations, we have made progress on item number 7 and item number 14 within the budget stabilization plan. This is consolidating positions and reduction in force. Based upon our projections, we are identifying through the general fund a decrease of about $500,000, and for the cafeteria fund about $7,000. And that's how we have been able to identify, and I'll scroll back up, reductions of about $890,000. What questions do you have?
More questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll open for public comment on this item. All right, seeing no public comment, is there any, this doesn't require action on our part, so is there any questions, comments for Monique? Before we let her go? Nope.
Well, this is just an
TJ.
update on item 1, 7, and 14. So there are other items like eventually we'll get updated on, or what's the thing on that?
Absolutely. As we continue having our discussions on the budget stabilization plan, we will be coming back to you with additional updates. For example, the only way we were able to share with you updates and true updates on item 7 and item 14 was after you, the board, approved the resolution at our last meeting. And so as we bring more things to you and you approve more items, we'll be able to provide more financial updates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
More questions, comments? All right, seeing none, are there agenda items for future meetings that board members would like to see on our agenda? TJ, go ahead.
I thought of it when Superintendent Dolan was going over all the schedules, and just made me happy to, kids are coming back. I liked when we had like a detailed update about how distance learning was going. I was wondering if we could do something similar to that. It doesn't have to be obviously in a big rush. We could do it in 2 or 3 meetings or something. Just maybe get a status update on just how it's going. Make sure, everyone's voices are being heard in this crazy time and in a public way. And just make sure that, the kids that we wanted back in school are getting the education we think they're getting, and just all the, I's are dotted and T's are crossed and all that good stuff.
Okay, other agenda items from board members for future meetings? All right, seeing none, we're on to board announcements. Does anyone have a board announcement? All right, also seeing none. We are quickly wrapping up this meeting. We are coming events, no fooling. Our next board meeting is going to be on April 1st. And
Day before spring break too.
yes, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn. There's a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you.